Hey, Jim, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. Tell us who you are and what you do.
My name is Jim Pietruszynski. I am currently the CEO of SoulSite. We are a full service brand design agency specializing in mostly consumer packaged goods. There's not a channel or a category we haven't worked with. Company's been around for 27 years, and I've had the privilege of probably wearing every hat imaginable as coming from a startup to an agency of about 80 people now. So my background is in design, but have built a account staff, have built a strategy department, and also just built the agency in multiple ways in different iterations as we're set up today. We always got to keep evolving the way things work to make sure things are moving in the right direction.
Awesome. Well, you guys are well in the eight-figure mark. So, looking back over the 27 years, it's crazy. So, what was the year you guys started? Was it 90?
97.
So, I started my agency in 99. So, yeah, that was the Wild Wild West. What were some of the milestones looking back that you guys achieved? I'm just curious. Like, some people do a milestone based on revenue, some people do a milestone based on employees, or what were the milestones that you guys achieved?
I think that's a great question. I think most of our milestones were based on the quality of the client and the size of the brand that we won the business from. So, winning a business from Molson Coors, which was just Miller at the time, actually, was one of our big entrees into working on Fortune 100 brands. And then having the confidence to go after that business, that was kind of our first milestone. I would say things took off pretty quickly after that. And we looked at them kind of short term rather than long term, but we want to make sure that we're at least at a minimum 10% growth each year from as we grew, that we were obtaining client size, judging milestones by client list. Like there's some quality clients and some clients that are they're one-offs, I think. And then the other milestone that we used was celebrating the retention of clients. So we've had clients for 20 years, we've had clients for 15 years, we've had clients for 10 years, and understanding where and how that becomes, I wouldn't say it's even a comfortable place because you can be, another agency can come in and the work can be moved at any time. But being with the brands longer than most of our clients are with some of these brands was a big milestone also for us to understand that we could formulate some thought leadership moving forward. So, I think that was a big one. And then most of our milestones are created. We do a 3-year plan every year. We aim for like what needs to get done, what needs to happen, how are we going to do it, and set goals for ourselves. So really, our milestones are based on have we met those goals and those objectives, thinking 3 years ahead. It's really hard in this industry, as you know, to predict what's going to happen as things go to more of a project by project basis. When I first started in the industry, there was a lot more retainer work, so that you were able to see how things were going to go for the year. It's a month to month forecasting model that we have to use now.
Are you, when you're planning out for the 3 years, are you planning out and trying to think about what's going to change or what's not going to change?
I think it's a little bit of both. So, like, what do we know from past history? So it's easier to look at what's happened in the past and make a predictable assumption of what's going to happen in the next year. And then we look at what needs to change. Like, what things do we need to do better? Where do we need to refocus our efforts? Are there different ways to think about how our creative department is structured? Are there ways that we can be more efficient? Are there ways that we can look at acquisitions? Like, we just acquired an agency in Florida called Freshmade. They have they're a brand design agency, but more focused in wellness and specifically fresh food. They have a full service commercial kitchen and photography studio. So being able to understand how we build capabilities that where we're hiring or working with consultants to have to pay that revenue out. Is there a way to capture that and bring it back in house with some of our teams?
Was this the first acquisition that you guys made?
This is our first acquisition. Yeah.
What were kind of like the revenue targets, and like what were some of the key elements that you were looking for? Or you already kind of said some, right? Like a specialty and that kind of stuff. But what were the things you guys were looking for that people listening can be like, because I think everyone has the dream to have the option to sell. But the reality is like when you start looking at a lot of agents, like we bought 10 agencies in the past 3 years. And the reality when you start looking at it, you're like, man, these guys are really messed up. We bought really successful companies versus, getting ones that were kind of about to die and kind of try to do the pretty woman Richard Gere thing.
Right, right. There is obviously looking at how they've grown over the past 5 to 6 years definitely is something that we look at. I think they're a big part too is chemistry. At least in our world, you have to meet the teams that you're going to be working with, or the team that's going to be. They're going to be operating separately from us, but we still have to have some dynamics that to understand that their values and their mission and their vision is similar to what ours are. I would say it is a bit of a needle in a haystack too when it comes to creative because it can be so subjective of the type of work they're doing and making sure that the type of work was complementary to what we're doing, but not overlap so that we're not competing with an agency, obviously, that we've purchased. I'd like to look at some that there's retention, especially from their staff that they currently have that they've been there for a number of years.
What percentage are you looking at for staff retention and employee and client retention?
I would say like if they have a client, like anywhere from 5 to 7 years of a client retention is good, especially if it's the majority of their business. I mean, I think you take some risks sometimes when companies have high concentrations in one client, but I think there's ways to balance that out with some acquisition and work with them to diversify their portfolio and help them grow.
Do you devalue them if they have a client that's significant a portion of their revenue, or do you give them more of an earnout to protect you?
Good question. I think as we look at the majority of what we were looking for, they were all earnout based models. So I think there's a kind of a misnomer that there's always going to be, and maybe it does happen in some industries, but at least in ours, like no one drops a bag of cash on your desk and says, "Okay, thanks for your agency. We're off now," and comes in and tries to kind of take over. So we're a relationship based business, so that's important to us to make sure that there is some continuity that happens throughout the process. And for the most part, when we were looking at agencies, most of the partners or most of the leadership team want to stick around. It's not like they're looking to exit completely. They're just looking to take some of the equity off the table.
But what are they getting for that equity if they don't get cash, if everything's in an earnout?
There's some upfront cash with it, but then there has to be some incentive to grow the business too. So there is obviously some sort of like cash up front. There is some earnout with I would say, and again, this is the first acquisition I've done, and probably my CFO is probably better suited to talk about some of this stuff than me. But really, there has to be incentive for us and them to continue to grow the business that we're
Gotcha.
in consideration of growing.
Going back to kind of what you were saying about the first milestone for you guys was landing a big client. I think Miller was that. How many employees and how many years in business were you in before that happened?
So Molson Coors, we're almost going on 25 years of them being a client of ours. I think we were probably around, I would say 12 to 13 people at that time. It was right around 2000, the year 2000. And we put a lot of work into a RFP to win some work.
RFPs win? Or
And actually, it wasn't any spec work. It was just doing a lot of work to like make sure that we had a robust RFP and a lot of proving ourselves to the company at that time, Miller, that was located up in Milwaukee. Fortunately, the company now headquarters for marketing are in Chicago, so makes it a little bit more convenient for us to
yeah,
have some quick access to work with their team.
that's great. Yeah, I always ask people, I'm like, do you know the two winners of every RFP? And obviously you were the winner of the RFP, but the first one out was the second winner.
Yeah, and we don't usually find out who we're up
Exactly.
against.
Yeah. RFPs always stood for real fucking problem for me. When the companies would come to us, we'd be like, well, no, we're not doing it. And then they would be like, why? And then they would want to know more. And then we would sell them like a foot in the door. some kind of paid strategy that was under their minimum, and then we would be in the door. I remember like Lotus Cars came to us. I remember everybody was doing their stupid RFP, and I was like, I'm not doing this stupid thing. And I met with them, won the deal before anybody was even done the RFP.
Yeah, I mean, I think fortunately and unfortunately, there is most of our business comes through relationships and organically. So we're not participating in a ton of RFPs every year. I think there were more credible maybe 20 years ago in terms of like understanding who we were because we kind of were a little bit of an underdog and people understanding, but we had just great experience coming from the people that were on our staff. So it wasn't like we had the experience, we had the exposure, but we weren't a brand name. And I would argue that, we're probably not a well-known brand name even today because we haven't put a ton of work into our own marketing.
Well, why is that? Why do you think agencies, or why are you guys that way?
Client work always comes first, but we go through that cycle, right? Like it's clients work is important, but if you're not doing your own marketing and sales, there could be a lull at some point, or you may miss out on an opportunity because people don't know who you are. So it is a double-edged sword of just trying to get things done all the time.
I have a T-shirt that I want to send you, and if anybody that wants this T-shirt, I'll give you the link. It says, "If you're too busy, you're not charging enough." If you guys get it,
Probably true.
yeah, go to agencymastery.io. Go to the very bottom, and you'll see a link to, I think we call it store or swag, but there's a shirt. Because look, I was looking for a social media agency not too long ago to do work for us, and I went to them. I go, hey, just before I jumped on the call, I go, dude, like I was checking out your social media, like you guys haven't posted in a while. Oh, well, no, for the brand, it doesn't work that well, but it works for more personalities. I said, oh, so if I go to your leadership team, your CEO, we don't get business from that either. I'm like, wait. I was like, come on, like you got to practice what you preach.
Yeah, I agree. I think we have done some. We're getting better every year, a little bit better every
Good.
year at it. It just, things never move as fast as how I would like them to. Even doing a website refresh. If you were to go to look at the work on our website, it's probably 5 years, 4 to 5 years old. Everything needs a refresh, and we're busy working on all of our client work and demands. It gets difficult that, we don't practice what we preach on ourselves, I would say.
The funny thing is my team knows this. So when we're on a mastermind call with our agencies and they're chatting, and if I give advice to one of the members, and I always tell every member, I go, when you give other people advice, the most important question is, I know you've done this in the past and this worked for you. Are you still doing it? And so like I'll call up Stacy or Darby or Jody or anyone on our team. I'll be like, all right, remember like on that meeting when I gave that great advice and I told them it worked so well for us and we haven't done that in like a year. Well, we need to start doing that. And it's hilarious about how that happens.
It is true.
Hey, agency owners, if you're sticking with one platform for every project, you're probably stuck in a growth bottleneck. More clients means more hires, which adds noise and cuts into profits. To break the loop, you need a more flexible tool that doesn't stretch your resources. Now, Wix Studio is a smart addition to your agency's toolkit. Intuitive by design, your team can quickly master the platform and focus on the work that matters the most. Now, with robust native business solutions like booking, e-com, and events, you can take on any project at any scale without adding cost to third-party plugins. Plus, Wix Studio is a low-maintenance platform, meaning you can redirect client budget toward real growth initiatives. Think more value for your clients, steady income stream, and stronger relationships. Scale your agency at wixstudio.com. I'm going to ask kind of a leading question. So you guys plan out for 3 years. Are you guys planning out kind of pricing as well of what you should be charging?
Making an educated guess on how we should be increasing. We're always looking at the rate card. We have, like I said, it's been very competitive, I think, post-COVID in terms of, I would say, agencies lowballing what they should be charging for things.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been moments where we've lost work because we've been told we've been too expensive but a lot of times that's the reality of getting things done. And it's interesting because we see those things come back to us. So we can kind of, the market determines a lot of what we can spend in terms of what these big CPG companies have, even down to like the price of materials that they increase or decrease all rolls into the same budget. So I always say we're not sitting in a used car lot trying to sell you something. So like there's always a way to negotiate what you need from our end and have it be a win-win. Deliverables aren't always going to be looking the same depending on what type of budget you have.
I always looked at it as I'm never going to lose a deal because I'm too expensive. I'm going to lose a deal because I haven't explained our process or the results enough,
Yep.
or I'll lose a deal because I'm too low. Like I remember, like one of my stories I always tell is like I went into a company I never heard of, pitched them a $20,000 website. This is like in 99 or 2000. And the company laughed at me. And that company was Berkshire Hathaway.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, who is this company? First, do the research. But then I started thinking, like, as we started getting bigger and bigger and growing, if I could explain to them how they're going to get the results, the success, like if I'm having a heart attack right now, I don't care what the hell it's going to cost. I'm like, save my life. I'll figure out how to pay for it after. But if it's kind of like a low cost option, a middle option, a high cost option of a doctor, right? Like, obviously, I want to go with the most expensive one because I feel that they're the best. But if they explain that process, and so, or what have you guys tweaked in your offering or your sales conversation to constantly keep raising your prices over the years? Because, going from, $1 million agency to where you guys are at now, there's huge price increases. It's not just like and you're probably not taking on as many clients anymore. And that's a big misconception between, an agency owner at a couple million and one over 8 figures. It's kind of, man, how do I get double the clients? I'm like, absolutely not. How do you get half of those clients, but get them paying you 4 times as much? So what are some of the things that you guys have adjusted over the time with your offering or your kind of your sales pitch?
Instead of just focusing on trying to do everything for everybody, focusing on what we know we're really good at
Mhm.
and doubling down on that and making the value shown in the new business process by case study examples, but making sure that there's results. So we do try to increase the pricing with thinking about inflation, obviously, every single year. This year, a lot more inflation than what could be considered, and the pricing really is driven by like our efficiencies too. So if we can be more efficient at getting something done, the profitability is going to be better. Common sense stuff that like I think that I don't think of all the time when I was in it doing the design work, but like really the efficiencies of how we get stuff done, making sure that there's meeting management, making sure that we're really working towards making decisions quickly instead of like dwelling on things. I think there is a little bit of that goes on. And then I think when we think about pricing too, it's just understanding you tend to form relationships with people that are on our partner side or our client partner side that can kind of guide us to understand like, hey, are we even in the ballpark or are we even close to, are we too low? Are we coming in too high? And usually when you find a brand champion, you can understand the threshold for what most companies are willing to pay. And it is a spectrum, though. It is a spectrum in terms of like, I think you have to be flexible and you have to be able to talk through the nuance of what deliverables mean for any particular project you work on. Like I said, things are so much more project by project based. It's hard to have that one rate card that you go to and the clients agree to and understand where numbers are coming from.
Are you guys charging hourly?
Yes, yes. Everything
Why
is
did you
charged
guys
by the
choose
hour.
to do that versus choosing to have, especially if it's a project, charging a project rate?
Well, we have figured out the amount of hours it takes to to put together a deliverable. So it's some transparency that our clients like to see in terms of I need an adaptation to a brand for 7 different touch points.
Okay.
So we can understand, and we have a general understanding how long that should take and then how much that should cost by hour. And it's just easier for us to do the calculation off of our own rate card, unless there's a rate card established with a current partner.
Okay.
Because sometimes procurement gets involved and they can be good too in helping us understand where we need to net out in order to be competitive.
Do you guys ask for the budget?
We do
When do you ask for the budget?
before, or if not at the time of the briefing. We would have to have it before the briefing, but like on the onset of the business, some are not willing to share budgets. Some,
Do you want the secret to get a budget almost every single time?
yes, I'd love it.
So this works with big companies too, because these jackasses have these big budgets. They're trying to hide off on you. But what I would do, like a lot of times, let's play. Jim, I'll say, hey, what's your budget? What's a typical response?
I think the typical response would be we'd like to see where you guys net out in terms of pricing, cost, and process.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
and we don't have anything specifically nailed down yet.
Exactly. Right. They say, I don't have a budget. We'll spend whatever it takes. I'll be like, cool. I love working with people that don't have a budget. We don't have to worry about money. They kind of laugh a little bit. I'm like, I'm just kidding, Jim. I just need to know some kind of range so we know what we can help you out with and if we can help you. Now, here's the mistake that most people make. They always start small. What are you trying to stay around? 10,000, 20,000? They always remember the first number. If you go, what are you trying to stay around, Jim? Are you trying to stay around $1 billion, $1 million, 100,000, 10,000? What's the range? And if they will not tell me a range, I say, I might not be the best for you. If you don't even know what kind of range you're trying to stay around, there's a lot of other things are unknown. Now, this is where I might position what I call the foot in the door offer, like a 2-hour strategy session that they pay for. So no free work. So I'd basically say, Jim, it seems to me there's a lot of unknowns, which is not your fault. Your company's not your fault. I'd like to help you out. Why don't we get together for 2 hours and let's strategize and build a plan together so you're more educated, we're more educated. Here's the possible outcomes. You'll love the plan, you'll go execute it yourself. You'll love the plan number 2, which is the most common, you'll get us to help you with it. Number 3, you don't like the plan, I give you your money back. So what do you have to lose, Jim?
Great advice.
Right? And so you know if they're serious or not. They already gave you money. So now you already got your hand in their pocket.
Yeah, great advice. I think it's especially for any new clients that start the service to get understanding. I think most of our current clients, we have a general idea
Well,
what the threshold is for what they want to spend or what they need to spend. But every once in a while, you get a curveball in there where it's like, we don't really have a lot of budget for this, but
oh, that's just totally full of shit.
Yeah.
Like they can find the budget if they want their bonuses and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I always had the strategy of I would always start raising my prices on new clients or new prospects coming in. And then once I see the delta so different than the existing clients, I'm like, man, I'm losing tons of money over here. I need to go to these clients and raise the price. If they go away, they go away. Like one of our mastermind members, Dean, he did this. He doubled his prices for the prospects. And then all the existing clients, now he was only around, I think, the 2 million mark at the time, but doubled his prices for existing clients. All of them said yes. And he made an extra $1 million just from raising his prices.
wow. Yeah, I've heard those success stories before too.
Yeah. So, well, cool. Well, Jim, this has been a lot of fun. Thanks so much for being open and sharing your guys' journey. And congratulations on all the success. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would benefit the listeners listening in?
In our industry anyway, and then you could probably agree with this, like building an agency is not a sprint. I mean, it's not a it's not an industry where lightning strikes and
You mean
you win.
if I click on that Facebook ad
Yeah, right.
and buy that course, it's not going to.
I mean, I think you got to have a lot of passion for what you do, and you really have to like what you're doing in order to be successful. I mean, I've seen a lot of agencies where people come into agencies where they think, oh, I'm a great account manager, I'm great at sales, I'm going to do really well. They don't. I mean, you got to really love what you're doing, and you got to really understand what we're doing, and really know the value that you're adding, and what makes you different from somebody else. So, like I say, it's a marathon. It is a marathon, and it's a slugfest, but got to like competing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Thanks so much, Jim. And for all of you guys listening, we're doing something very different. So, a lot of you know we've had the agency playbook out for a number of years. It's our 8 system framework. We've opened up the first 3 systems for you for free. If you guys go to swank.com, SWENK.com, you get access to the first 3 systems. And these are the foundational systems to make sure you're going in the right way, how to position your agency in a way where you're eliminating your competition. You're the choice rather than a choice.
Mhm.
And what's the right offering at the right time, kind of talking about that offering ladder and that foot in the door. Make sure you guys go to swank.com and get free access to it. And until next time, have a swank day.